Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, I must remind him, Honorable Minister, while you were playing schoolboy chess, I was representing this country at swimming in the Central American and Caribbean region and football. So please come down from there with these attacks about who is patriotic and who is not. It seemed that you look like you're in a national unity debate because you boasted that you lived in Carapachima for 1 year. But we have people who live in Carapachima all their lives, in Barrackpore, in Princestown, in Couva, in Naparima, who have never seen life so hard as it is now because of the geographic discrimination of your PNM government. When you held open fire, when you banned open fire cremations without an iota of science, what were you talking about? Unity. When you banned rivers but kept beaches open, when you attacked doubles and you talk about Calcutta ship, you come here to pretend that you love one country, one people, because you live in Carapachima for a year. It sounds like Donald Trump saying that he has one black friend who comes to dinner once a year. The most abhorrent personal attacks against former Prime Minister Patrick Mervyn Augustus Manning were made by your current Prime Minister, the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West himself, Keith Christopher Rowley, not by the UNC. The UNC did not work beyond Patrick Manning. The UNC did not take shame and take pleasure in Patrick Manning's illness. That was the member for Diego Martin West live on a political platform. So don't tell us that the
Senator Roberts, the member for Diego Martin West is a member of the Parliament, and you cannot impute improper motives, which is what you're doing. So I will ask you to please just move on.
Go on, ma'am, but I'm not. I'm stating facts. The member said that we attacked the gentleman. We never did, and we never will attack a person who is ill or sick, no matter how we may disagree with policy. That was done by the member for Diego Martin West and no one else. We are proud of our country. We are proud of Trinidad and Tobago. Don't lecture us about our country. We shame of the PNM. We shame of the government. We shame of your performance. They're modernizing the ministry, says the minister. What you're modernizing it with? Coal pot and a bike rack? Then there was the Minister of Tourism, who could not even differentiate between sport tourism and sporting tourism. I won't even bother to dignify his response as he read from something handed to him by another minister when this government has just tendered out after 7 years for a master plan in sport tourism. And I just remind him, and I correct the record for the children that are looking on Parliament Channel, that the Prime Minister, Keith Christopher Rowley, the member for Diego Martin West, Honorable Minister of Tourism, is not the head of state. Try to read a book. Minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General, Head 23. The minister went on to talk about the work with the international bodies on the rights of the child. That was fantastic to hear. But I would like to hear about the rights of the children in the Judith Jones report received by the PNM since December 13, 2021, who are still in the hands of monsters, who are still being raped and abused and battered without a decision from this government. So don't tell me about international children. Tell me about my children right here who are in harm's way. Tell me about what about Yael Sarabia? I'm sure certain members of the government, all of y'all don't even know who I'm talking about. Yael Sarabia was a baby in his mommy's arms on a boat in the Caribbean Sea in the Gulf of Paria, who was shot in the head by our Coast Guard as they were fleeing Venezuela for a better life. What about him? Where's the justice? Where's the report? Tell us about that. The Honorable Minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General quoted Patrick Manning about the protection of social fabric. That was a good quote. Patrick Manning is a brilliant speaker, very eloquent, intelligent. But I will also quote from the Honorable Patrick Manning right in the Hansard in a different place, where he also said, Mr. Speaker, I see hate I see venom. I see a man totally out of control, Mr. Speaker. We do not tolerate bullying, Mr. Speaker, in our schools, and we will not tolerate bullying in the cabinet. The way of my learned friend from Diego Martin West, when he does not get his way, Mr. Speaker, is to bully you. We will not tolerate bullying in the cabinet. If the member wants to bully, he will have to form a cabinet of his own. Well, you, my colleagues of the PNM, did not listen to the great Patrick Manning because you allowed the bully to form a cabinet, and now the entire country is being bullied. I noted...
Senator Roberts, I will ask you to withdraw that last statement.
I withdraw, ma'am. I noted the Honorable Vice President of the Senate saw it fit
Point of order,
to comment.
46-1.
Minister of Finance.
46-1 relevance.
Continue, Senator Roberts.
Thank you, ma'am. Honorable Minister, you know I'm responding to your colleagues, sir. I noted the Honorable Vice President of the Senate saw it fit to comment about the slip of her tongue by the leader of the UNC, where she said Ernest instead of Ernst. Well, I would ask him to explain to his Senate, to this Senate, what
Just 1 second. Senator Mark, please remember where you are, okay? Continue, Senator Roberts.
I would like the honorable member to explain exactly what the minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs meant when she said, and I quote, the expenditure being spent. The minister boasted of expenditure on staffing of the ministry, while the DPP's office in Trinidad and Tobago remains woefully understaffed. The DPP himself complaining that only 37% of the attorneys on the HR have been fulfilled. High Court justices are bringing and berating the DPP's office because of the lack of resources given to the DPP's office by this government, by this cabinet, and by this PNM government. The Honorable Minister boasted about even teaching Spanish to the lawyers at the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, which was very good, because the former Attorney General would have encouraged that program, as he's a frequent visitor to the house of Mr. Budit and the owner of Copacabana, so Spanish is necessary for him. The PNM
Senator Roberts, please, while what you are saying might cause amusement to some, it is unbecoming and unparliamentary here. So I will ask you, please, withdraw that last statement and move on. And please, as well, it was invoked, the standing order on relevance was invoked. As I said yesterday, I am reluctant to have to invoke relevance in a budget debate. Members have that leeway, but you're really going outside of everything now in your contribution. You need to be a little more focused.
Madam President, thank you very much. The country knows the truth, it's just the truth. And I'm responding to all of my colleagues. I had to sit here for days and listen to my PNM colleagues, so I don't understand the irrelevance. It's very relevant.
Senator Roberts, whether you understand or not, a ruling has been given. So I will ask, please, I will ask you to just make your contribution.
PNM is educating young lawyers, said the Honorable Minister. Well, this is a very scary thought. Module 1A, how to withdraw cases of political colleagues Malcolm Jones, Ken Julian, and Mr. Fake Oil. 1B, taught by the Honorable Attorney General and the office to the young lawyers, how to sell a car without transferring it. Module 2, how to complete an affidavit replete with falsehood. Module 3, how to rent your own building. Module 4, how to recuse.
Senator
Point
Roberts.
of order, relevance.
Continue, Senator Roberts.
Thank you. I think that the Honorable Minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General is very relevant, Honorable Minister of Finance. She is extremely relevant. She debated powerfully, and I'm responding. So Module 5, how to negotiate an indemnity agreement in a criminal matter and overstep the bounds of the Constitution and separation of powers. My colleague from Tobago, Senator Hislop, he came in and he said that his Prime Minister, Keith Christopher Rowley, the member for Diego Martin West, can stand scrutiny. Well, I couldn't believe when I heard that. Let me be pellucid. The Honorable Prime Minister could not stand the scrutiny of a blind man searching in the dark for contact lens.
Senator Roberts, listen, if you don't want to confine yourself to the standing orders and make a contribution within the parameters of the standing orders, you're free to make your contribution elsewhere. But once you are here, you have to confine yourself to the standing orders. Please, just move on.
I thought I was, ma'am, because I'm responding to my colleagues. If PNM can stand...
No, you know, Senator Roberts, you can respond, and there's a particular way to respond. Okay? There's a particular way to respond.
If the PNM can stand scrutiny, then why influence and control or infiltrate or try to take control of independent institutions? If you can stand scrutiny, let them operate without interference. The Honorable Minister of Public Administration, she admitted here that the increases in revenue were due to the war that Putin was waging on Ukraine. I think that her honorable colleagues in the cabinet may have been a little upset with her for talking the truth here, so I commend her for talking the truth. She says that the government is boasting about a $2 billion extra in PSIP, and she boasted about the COVID-19 fight that the PNM put on. Well, that was kind of hard to listen to. I'll deal with that in a little bit, because it's not easy for people who lost loved ones. The Honorable Minister said it's not about winning elections. Well, clearly I can agree with that, because this budget has ensured that you will not win another election in Trinidad and Tobago again. The Honorable Minister said, we dealt with Petrotrin debt. How did you deal with the debt? Your Honorable Prime Minister also said that you paid off the bullet payment. The bullet payment of the Malcolm Jones $850 million US has not been paid off. It has been refinanced and becomes due in 2028. So please tell the people the truth. She said that the opportunity cost of the subsidy is too great. What is that opportunity cost? The opportunity cost of the subsidy has to be greater than the benefits to each and every citizen of receiving cheaper gas, cheaper fuel, cheaper security, cheaper medicine, cheaper livelihoods, and expanding the purchasing power of their dollar. But so for the Honorable Minister to believe that the cabinet being able to spend money in a discretionary manner is a better, more pertinent, more important opportunity cost than serving all the people does not sit well with the rest of the nation. The Honorable Minister said that there's no place for ministers in HR, and I totally agree. I think she should whisper to her colleague, the Minister of Finance, and tell him that he's not supposed to sit on an HR committee and decide who gets a position in the BIR. Head 77, Agriculture, the Honorable Minister Kazim Hussain. He said that the member for Diego Martin West was a parliamentarian for 45 years and Diego Martin Northeast 31 years, and therefore they were amazing and brilliant. Let me tell my honorable colleague, just staying in something long does not mean that you're good. Staying long and getting it wrong is not the way to go. I around kitchen since I was born, and that don't mean I could cook. The PM playing golf 50 years and he still can't swing the club properly. But you, I'm proud of Minister of Agriculture. You are the exception to the rule. You have come from, as you boast and you should, from humble beginnings to ascend to the heights of executive power, and I really commend you for that. But this budget ensures that no one else of that ilk, no one else from meager circumstances, no one else will have that opportunity, because this elitist budget for the rich would not allow it. The Honorable Minister of Social Development, Head 78, said, I believe from her contribution that she should be reshuffled in the cabinet and become the Minister of National Security because she has done intensive investigations and gotten some results in corruption within the ministry in food cards and grants and so on. And I commend her because the country requires that across the board in crime and safety and security, not 2 minutes in a 4-hour and 12-minute budget. So I commend the minister for that, and I ask her to advise the current Minister of National Security to get on board and work as passionately to keep our ladies safe, our mothers, our women, to keep us safe from AR-15s killing us in the grocery, robbery, rape and murder, so that we could feel safe in Trinidad and Tobago and be proud of our country as we are ashamed of the PNM. Food cards, there were 32 food cards in the draw, but I asked the Honorable Minister to maybe give the Minister of Finance a little note on the 400 food cards that the candidate in Tobago had walking around handing out, because 400 is more valuable than the 32. So we'd like to hear some information on that. Or is it just selective fraud that we're investigating at the ministry? The Independent Senator, Honorable Dr. Remy said in her Hansard, and I was very interested because it was potent, while we were fighting here, and as the Calypsonian said, we're kicking, Rome is burning. Is it that when the treasury is raided and people are not brought to justice, is not taken seriously because it is not our personal money? If it was our personal money, we would have wanted to do something about it. I am not happy. The people are not happy. We need to do better than this, Madam President. It bothers me that at this level, how we operate in these August chambers, we need to stop. I know that when we had asked to reflect on our behavior by the President at the opening of this Parliament, the responses from our leaders went like this: we are not as bad as other places. And another said, let her look in the mirror. So I expect to be asked, who do you think you are? Me? To talk about that. Madam President, I am not better than any of us. However, I am frustrated, said the Honorable Independent Senator. So are we, and so is the country, ma'am. But when the government came to gut procurement, we saw that they got one vote that they needed in order to do that, which has allowed them so to do.
Senator Roberts. You are imputing improper motives. You are also attacking the way a member of this Senate votes. And any member is free to vote however he or she wants to. So you should not be attacking how a member votes. So I will ask you please to withdraw that last statement.
Withdrawn. I would not attack anyone, but withdrawn.
Well,
I was just
Senator Roberts, no, but could you cut all the comments? You withdraw it, and let's just move on.
And we heard the Minister of Health who came into the Senate and spoke about Head 28. And the Honorable Minister of Health talked about the Simangal report and attacked the UNC and attacked Kamala Prasad Bisesa and attacked Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, the Honorable Senator, by saying that they attacked the Simangal report, and now it is their hero worship and so on. It was rather disingenuous of the minister, because if anyone would remember clearly, when the Honorable Prime Minister announced the Simangal committee being set up, he gave them but a mere week, and the instantaneous, immediate response from the Honorable Leader of the Opposition and the Opposition was that that was insufficient time to, at the time, investigate 3,800 deaths, to investigate 2 years of a COVID-19, to go and interview 20,000 health workers. That 1 week was ridiculous. But we have a minister who comes in here, brings quotes, plays games with the timeline in order to make a fake point, just like fake oil. So I just want to correct that and tell the minister that when you're debating here, these little games are not really wanted. Talk the truth, speak the truth, and give the facts. The Honorable Minister of Health also said we didn't reach. Their first mantra was, we're *1 in the world. But now in the Senate yesterday I heard, well, we're not #1, but we're not the worst. We were not like Italy, because Italy had priests waiting to say prayers for you as you enter the hospital. And we're not like USA, because them had dead people in refrigerated trucks, so we were all right. Well, that's not good enough, is it? So we did well because we were not dead last. That's the mantra of the PNM. When people were suffering and dying and every variant note a man was coming in here, the minister said he was proud. He's proud, proud, proud. Minister proud? 4,300 people dead. 92% death rate in the ICU. Specialists were ignored by the management and the government. Every variant known to man on the planet entered our twin island republic. The country was in a state of chaos and panic. Vaccination rates were low, no vaccinations were forthcoming. Vaccination discrepancies were made. The country has rewarded, said the Honorable Minister, the public servant team, the Dr. Parashram and so on. It wasn't the country that rewarded these people, sir. It's the PNM cabinet of a PNM award. So please take ownership of the award. The COVID-19 nightmare that we lived through. But somehow people feel you bury your head in the sand and just sing a mantra without statistics, without facts, without information. That is like a man coming 45th in the Olympics and telling himself and his country he came back with gold, and he repeats it over and over, and then the country rewards him for winning a gold medal. They feign for support and love for healthcare workers, but reward them with a tin of biscuit, and now the disrespect is complete with a total of 20,000 workers to divvy up 210 million TT dollars for risking their lives for 24 months in a pandemic, which, by the way, seems to be over all over the world, except here in Trinidad and Tobago, because last week in a 4-day period, 17 citizens died. Just because it does not make newspapers does not mean it did not happen. The citizens keep falling. 169 fully vaccinated people, citizens, are dead during this pandemic. All of them forced to take a vaccine that the government said there was no difference in the efficacy of different brands. And all 169, the report has shown, died who took that vaccine that was forced upon them. There was a mandatory vaccination policy putting people's livelihoods at risk, and you had to back on that. You had to flip-flop. There was mask in a car with a wife and children. You finish eating doubles and drinking coffee at home, and you have to put on a mask in your car with your wife and your child. No testing for months leading up to the general election of 2020. Only 4,236 tests out of a 4-month period. And they said we're #1 in the world and called an election smack bam in a pandemic. The chief of staff and specialists at COVID Center forced to take instructions from a druggist and a playwright. Doctors were forced to decide where people were going to die, whether they die in waiting for an ambulance or whether they would die in the ICU. We got every variant here. 4,300 dead, 51% only vaccinated at this time, and yet the government and the minister celebrate.
46-1, please. We're talking about the budget 2020.
Senator Mark, is it that you are making the ruling on the Senator Roberts, continue.
Ma'am, thank you. Like an SEA student getting half a question correct or half marks, demanding applause. This is what the Minister of Health did in this budget debate, looking for pips. Mask, no vaccines. Take what vaccine you get. NDA for vaccines. The Ministry of Health's mantra has morphed from we're #1 to, well, boy, we didn't get as bad. We're not sure where he was for the last 2.5 years, but citizens of this country had to go to the ICU in Trinidad and Tobago looking casket sharp because the death rate was the highest in the world. How could you applaud that? That's not even politics. That's just wrong and heartless. At 1.92%, an ICU, one ICU nurse for 50 patients. People are dying at home, and then you come to give $210 million for 20,000 workers, which works out to $457.38 per month that they work to save lives in a war. They work for $14.58 per day. Nurses and doctors who had to be locked down in the health facility in Debe would spend $500 or $600 for a 2-week period. They were working 2 shifts, and then you give them $14.58 a day for the war that they fought. You're looking confused. Do the maths. The maths in. It works out to $1.25 per hour. I cry shame. But you give the man who was there doing a press conference, listening to you and changing the science every day, an order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Come on, man. The same man who looked on at the PM telling citizens at the height of the deadly pandemic, come to Tobago.
Senator Roberts, there have been numerous rulings about references to third parties. And I'm going to ask you to not go down that path you're trying to go down.
Thank you, Madam. To this PNM government, this party that's in power, this government that has brought this fairy tale storybook budget, the results simply don't matter to this government. Facts and figures are relegated to mythical status. Merit is irrelevant. This PNM celebrates in the face of failure like a senator receiving $500,000 in a secret scholarship fund to fail all our exams, and spews ignorance and the piety from the pulpit as a former PNM PRO. The PNM health policy is to build...
Senator Roberts, you are crossing the line again with respect to the standing orders. So I will ask you, please, to withdraw that last statement and move on.
The PNM health policy is to build an administration building, for hundreds of millions of dollars, and then the minister comes here in the budget and says that we will save $12 million in rent to administer. A open heart surgery last week could not be conducted because you did not have these sutures to stitch up the man's chest, and you're talking about an administrative building. The central block, the minister boasted that the central block, the previous government did nothing, but it's 7 years. Where the central block? You want me to go and find it? Where to look for the central block? 7 years and $200 million later, no central block. Healthcare in a mess. The minister also, we went on to the Honorable Minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, Minister De Freitas, Senator De Freitas. I have to say his name because there are 2 ministers in the ministry, so I have to distinguish. I hope I am not breaching any standing orders. When Senator Mark said, Minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, when Senator Mark was young, he had an afro. Now he is bald. Well, me too, when I was young I had an afro, but now I am bald. But Senator, that is due to genetics and hereditary. That is hereditary. That is not due to any policy decision and poor decisions by Senator Mark and myself. We could not do anything to stop becoming bald, but you, the PNM, have taken decisions to shatter this economy, shatter the energy sector, shatter the foreign exchange, shatter the job market, the infrastructure degradation. Those are your decisions. Those things didn't happen by chance. They happened because of your incompetence. And then he said, Balize House, that minister, Senator Mark, is obsessed with Balize House. Senator Mark is not obsessed with Balize House. Senator Mark is obsessed with transparency, accountability, and stamping out PNM corruption to the max. I thought the minister would have told us how much money was brought in by the raffle, how many curry Q tickets they sold. I thought he would bring bills.
There is no line item in the budget for the construction of Balize House. So I will ask you, please, to desist and move on.
Well, ma'am, I'm responding to Minister.
Yes, and other persons spoke about it as well. So enough has been said about something that was really not even in the budget. Okay?
Minister De Freitas, the minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, also went on, and I was really disappointed. His Honorable Prime Minister had asked Dr. Tim Gopi Singh where the 106 schools. Dr. Tim Gopi Singh went in the place below and showed all 106. You could go on Facebook, you could go and watch it, and you come into the Senate to pretend that the government under Kamla Prasad Bisesa was just as bad as y'all and did not build any schools. Kamla Prasad Bisesa and Tim Gopi Singh under the UNC People's Partnership government built 106 schools, left 25 at different stages of construction, and the PNM has only completed 2 in 7 years. It looks like, I know some psychologists talk about penis envy, but I think the PNM has performance envy. Parents are vexed, says the minister, that they got textbooks under the UNC. The parents are angry. I don't know how many
standing point of order. I'd have to quote multiple points of order, Madam President. Please. 46.4, 46.1, the whole book. The whole book.
Listen. Senator Roberts, what can I say, Senator Roberts? I can't say anything, but just continue.
I think the Minister of Finance does protesteth too much. The minister also said that parents were vexed to get textbooks under the UNC. They were angry. Well, Minister, if they were angry to get textbooks that you said had mistake in it, how you feel they feel now that they can't get no textbook? Senator De Freitas, the minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, also said he came here and he prayed down to the amen for his prime minister because of the difficulty. He prayed here. But he prayed for a man who boasted about practicing obia from Lekoto on a former PNM. I will say,
Senator Roberts, I don't think that you have quite grasped the distinction between speaking in here and speaking outside. And I'd like you to please, in your last few minutes, I want you to grasp it. So please withdraw that last statement and move on.
But I will save my prayers for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I will save my prayers for them to succeed and to survive under this devastating, painful, heartless, wicked, evil budget. The Minister of Finance says, we shall see how it goes as he pegs the budget to $92.50 US per barrel. Yet the price on Thursday was $92.45 per barrel. Yet the minister tells us that the normal price that we should expect is $2 US less than the $92.50. So really under his calculation, we at $90.50, but he pegged the budget at $92.50. Why has the minister come to take the budget so high to where it actually is? Over the years, the convention and the practice of ministers of finance are to leave a cushion there for any errors to ensure that you do not over budget. For example, in 2004, the PNM got prices of oil up to $150 per barrel, but they only budgeted at $78 per barrel, leaving a cushion. In the People's Partnership government, prices of oil went up to $125 per barrel, but the partnership government budgeted at $80 per barrel, leaving a gap there, safety net. So why did this honorable minister do this? Why? Let me just quote from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund regulations, the law of the land. It says in 13.1, where petroleum revenues collected in each quarter of any financial year exceed the estimated petroleum revenues for that quarter of the financial year by more than 10%. The currency of the United States of America equivalent of the excess revenue shall be withdrawn from the consolidated fund and deposited to the fund in accordance with Section 14.1, which means that the minister would be forced to save for those future generations that the Minister of Foreign Affairs was talking about. But this minister does not want to save. He pushed the number right up to the top. So if you increase by 10%, it means you have to go up to a price of $101.75 US before any savings have to go to future generations. This is insipid. This is wrong. This is not in the best interest of the country and future generations.
Senator Roberts, you have 5 more minutes.
Thank you very much. My daughter and I lent me, I was reading books for it, and I have that book there, Disney Fairy Tale Collection, a collection of fairy tales which actually contains more facts and reality and truth than this Dwayne Storybook 2023. This is the autonomic budget, the autopilot budget, the budget of just leave it so and just do what you have to do to get recusals and to increase your PSIP and your discretionary spending without tendering, with a gutted procurement legislation, with interlocking directorships, one person, one human being controlling 9 state boards. This is the PNM, and that's why Balize House rises and the UNC has to rent. The Honorable Minister of Finance is brilliant. He creates fabricated myths of people who whispered in his ears and told him about devaluation. And he didn't do that. He concocts stories of what should have happened and could have happened, and then compares himself to that mirror image, that created story, and says, I am proud of myself. Things could have been worse if I listened to whoever told you to devalue the dollar. Nobody told you that, but the UNC told you, don't shut down the refinery. McKinsey, Solomon, and Lashley said, do not shut down the refinery. Restructure, refinance, keep the refinery open. How much money have we left on the table due to the war in Russia with Ukraine? How much money could we have made extra had we been refining products? So the minister also said, well, people were telling him too. I don't know who was telling him. They told him, go to the IMF. And the PNM comes to say that they didn't go to the IMF. So they didn't listen. But they have been implementing IMF prescriptions from day one since they came in. They've been conducting price controls. They've cut down the public sector across the board because they leave public servants on the establishment. They believe that the people don't know that job losses have occurred. 123,000 people off the NIB rolls. They have been instituting removing price controls on the fuel subsidy, on tea and tech, on WASA. These are all IMF prescriptions. The only reason that the government did not have to go to the IMF was one word: Kamla. 12.26 billion in reserves 2015, 7.8 million US in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, 14 months import cover, so a AAA plus investment rating, so the PNM could borrow 30 billion because Kamla left the economy strong. If she did not, you would have to go to the IMF. So you are giving the people IMF without being IMF. This budget is a fantasy. The permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance in the spotlight said that the way they have budgeted was to delay payments, legitimate payments. They slowed it down and delayed it, and they did not release legitimate requests for releases from ministries and corporations. She said so on the spotlight. And that shows why the economy is struggling, and all facets of this country, the people have gone over the edge into the precipice. In a word, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance at the PNM spotlight said, we don't pay. The PNM don't pay VAT. The PNM don't pay contractors. The PNM don't pay NGC. The PNM don't pay labor. Now, with this indemnity gate, it seems the PNM don't even pay their bribes. I end with a quote that aptly...
Senator Roberts, I will ask you to withdraw and apologize for that last statement.
I withdraw and I humbly apologize, ma'am. And I end this short presentation with a quote that aptly describes this corrupt PNM government by Paulo Kernahan. He says, the Prime Minister says the UNC is searching for scandal. But with this PNM government, that is like searching for Kobo in the labas. Thank you very much.
Senator Timal.